It'll probably be filled with a lot of really good information. So you are going to want to go back and watch. Today we're going to talk about resting heart rate and heart rate variability. So this is going to be a really good topic and one that I think, all of us have a little bit of experience in. So I'm curious to, just hear from all of us, maybe in the group sharing some information. And those of you watching the webinar today, we'd love to hear from you. I think in the past couple of years, we've probably brought up HRV a little bit. Most of us, I think, on this call went through this season of wearing our Whoop bands, and we'd monitor our HRV. I got mine on too, and I took a little break from mine, and I'm back on. I'm back on the Whoop
Yep.
band. Anyway,
Bam.
but I think it's important that we talk about this because 5 years ago, I don't think I'd ever heard of HRV. And maybe some of you are that way too. So we're going to dig into this. Dr. Saunders is here in the house today, like always, but he is a wonderful doctor. He is not your doctor. So we do ask that you consult with your healthcare provider before you implement any of the things that we talk about today. I'd love it if you went there and asked them about HRV. I'd be curious to know what they have to say. And then let us know. So, all right, let's maybe dig into this. First of all, let's talk about our resting heart rate. And it's funny, I think every time I want to check my resting heart rate, I didn't relax. Or like if you go to the doctor and they want to check, these things, maybe it's your pulse. Are you ever relaxed when you get in there? I mean, even my blood pressure increases just by being to the doctor. So I'm curious what this means. What is our resting heart rate? How do we check it? And why does it matter?
Okay. Your heart rate is the number of beats that you have per minute. And when I was in high school, I was told that you have like a limited number of beats in your lifetime. And if you smoked, then your heart would beat faster and then your life would get shorter. That was totally ridiculous and not even real. And I don't know if they were telling all the high school students that in those days. They're trying to get people not to smoke by telling them their life is going to be shorter. But their reasoning was way off as far as why your life is shorter. No, you don't have a limited number of heartbeats in your life. But why is the resting heart rate important? So this is kind of an important thing that you have to know about. When a heart is efficient and functioning well, and you're resting and quiet and relaxed, it should be anywhere from in the 50s, 60s, maybe up to 70. That kind of range is like a good place to be. And most people are in that range when they're quiet and relaxed. Sometimes they're in the 40s, and then the alarm goes off, beep beep beep. Your heart rate's 45. You got to do something about that. You're gonna die. And actually, that may not be true. So people who work out a lot, people who do marathons and triathlons and distance running and cycling and all that stuff, their heart rate, their resting heart rate, is going to often be in the 40s and sometimes in the low 40s. Like they're sitting around, and I had somebody once, I was listening to his heart, and it was like 38 or something like that. And it's going boom, 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 boom. And you're like, okay, keep going, please keep going. Don't stop now. Because it feels like it's too slow, like it's going to stop at any moment. And what's really going on is the heart is very efficient because they do like distance, and their heart has to work at a high level for a long period of time. So this efficiency makes their heart a little larger than normal, and it pumps out more blood per beat. So instead of getting a normal 50 to 60% per beat, they're getting like 70% per beat, and the heart is larger. So to get all that circulation, they just have to do fewer beats. That's why. And what's really interesting, if you look at the difference between an elephant, for example, that beats like 1 time per minute, boom, boom, this big old heart pumping, boom, boom. Um, and as compared to a hummingbird, their little teeny heart that's about less than an inch is going uh, 300 to 600 times a minute. Um, that that the size has a lot to do with it. So in a runner or somebody who does long distance, they have a larger heart, and so they have fewer beats, and so it's going to be slower. It makes sense, when they're resting. Um, so, what does that mean to you? Well, if your heart is very efficient, then your normal resting heart rate is going to be lower. So if it's in the 50s, that's okay. If you're working out a lot and it's in the 40s, that's okay. So that's not a problem. It's not bradycardia, which means slow heart rate, unless you're getting symptoms. So you have symptomatic bradycardia. So technically, bradycardia is you have the bell curve. You're outside of the bell curve. So yeah, in the 40s, it's bradycardia, but it's not symptomatic bradycardia until you're getting dizziness from it, right? So that's where the resting heart rate is. If you're feeling fine and everything is working, and you're not getting lightheaded from lack of blood flow, then your heart rate is fine. So, what about the upper end? What about people who are running 90? Technically normal, so anywhere from 60 to 100 is considered normal. Over 100 is considered tachycardia. And tachycardia means high heart rate. So technically, if you're in the 90s, what does that mean? Well, that means your heart is probably less efficient. It's smaller. It's probably beating 50% of the blood is being pushed out with every beat. So because of that, it has to beat more times to get the same amount of circulation. So that's a resting heart rate. And that's why the resting heart rate is important. The better your heart is functional, the lower your resting heart rate will be. That's an interesting little tidbit of information. Yeah, so there you go.
I love it. This is good. We're starting to get some questions in here. So if you have questions about this, let us know. Comment in the Q&A. If you're on YouTube, you can comment there. Let's see. Joe had typed some questions in here. Said, what raises the heart rate and resting heart rate? One, eating food. Two, drinking wine. Three, stress. Four, medication. What else?
Well, if you're resting, it means you're not exercising. Stress or any kind of anxiety, if you're releasing adrenaline, cortisol, anything like that, things that you're eating or just eating, that's in a sense, eating is kind of like working out and you're requiring more circulation in your intestinal system. Thinking, you require more circulation to your brain, and so your heart rate may go up, and that includes the things that you already talked about, stress and anxiety. So yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I muted myself mid-sentence. How does it change with age?
It doesn't change with age unless you're getting more like when you're younger and you have a really efficient heart. Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you, Cheryl, for asking this. This is fun. Like let's say someone who's a marathon runner and they do a lot of marathons, and so they have this big heart that just is like really efficient, and then they stop working out. What happens to their heart? Well, their heart doesn't get smaller really, it stays big. It just gets kind of floppy, like it doesn't pump efficiently anymore. You don't pump as much of it out, so their heart rate tends to go up, but they have this large floppy heart. And if you have someone else that they don't do any cardio, they're working out and they're just pumping iron and to get big muscles, are doing everything they can to get big muscles, guess what their heart looks like? It's this small, thick walled heart that goes boom, 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 boom. It can generate pressure really well, and it beats faster. And then when they stop working out, when they get older, they have this small heart that's kind of thick, and it's slower. It's well, beats generally relatively slower compared to when they're younger. So yeah, there is a difference, and so it's not aging though; it's stopping your exercise routine. And that's when the heart starts changing and you start getting a more floppy heart.
Mm. Okay. Michelle said, shouldn't women have a higher heart rate than men?
As a rule, yes, sometimes it's just different because women have a lot of a hormone called progesterone. And so at certain times of the month, women are going to have a faster heart rate and at other times a slower heart rate. This progesterone relaxes smooth muscle and the blood pressure drops down. So they tend to have a higher heart rate to keep the circulation up because the blood vessels are relatively dilated. You actually have more blood volume, so you have to pump it a little harder. So the heart has to beat a little faster. And then at other times when there's not very much progesterone and the blood vessels are constricted, your blood volume goes down and you don't have to beat as fast. So yes, but not necessarily.
That's good. Let's see. Okay, any more questions specific to this?
I did notice that Randy Benton said, "Great answer, Scott. I was an EMT in my younger years. That was precise. Love y'all."
Thank you. Okay, well, let's talk about the heart rate variability. That is an interesting topic. You know, it's kind of relatively new. It's been known about for a long time, but most of the time it was like, yeah, not that important. It turns out it's really important. If you have a heart rate that is absolutely exactly on time, and we're talking milliseconds, like there's no difference there, like absolutely online, that means the heart is marginal. It's marginal function. It's not functioning well. It has to be right on every time. If you have a heart that's compliant to the physiology, so for example, when you breathe in, the reason the air is going into your lungs is because you have low pressure in your chest. So you're sucking, you're pulling out the muscles, expanding your chest so that air sucks in, and that's low pressure. Well, guess where your heart is? It's in your chest. And so when you're sucking in air, you're also sucking blood into the heart. The same thing happens. So if your heart is sensitive to that, then it fills up a little bit faster when you're breathing in. And so when it's full, it'll beat. And that's a sensitivity that your heart could have. When you're breathing out, then you're putting pressure on the outside, and the veins that are coming in to fill the heart are slower, so it doesn't fill as fast. So it takes a little longer between the heartbeats. And we're talking milliseconds here. We're not talking a lot of time. And so that difference from just the breathing and the other changes of the pressure in your body and the blood vessels are opening and closing and all of that. So this physiologic change that's constantly, second by second, milliseconds happening all the time. If your heart is sensitive to that and able to respond to that, then your heart will have these variations by just milliseconds. So it's not exactly 60 times a minute. It's 60.025 and then 60.12 and there's this variability in there. And so there's an algorithm now for a heart rate variability. And if you have any of these devices, one of these or one of these whoop bands, then they are following your heart rate, and so they detect that variability. So if you have some good variability, that means you have good heart function. That means you have a sensitive heart that's sensitive to your physiology. If you have an exact, like very low heart rate variability where it's the same every time, that tends to mean that it's not physiologically active, that it's marginally functional. So that means it's on the edge, and it's the heart says, I'm making it every time, but just barely, kind of thing. There's no play in there. And so that's why heart rate variability seems to be important. And as more measurements are done, it turns out it's really important that the you can do somebody's, they call it a metabolic age or a cardiovascular metabolic age. Using heart rate variability, you can determine what someone's metabolic age is. So I'm going to brag right now. I went to a conference in Las Vegas, and they had one of those, the cardiac monitor for determining metabolic age, and mine was 28. Okay, I'm 61, and my heart age was 28. That's according to the heart rate variability, and they do other things too, like your vascular compliance is another part of that, and so if your arteries are hard, then you have a high age. If your arteries are really soft and compliant and moving well, then you have a low age. Anyway, so that heart rate variability is kind of an important thing. So now that these monitors can measure it, you can say that it's going up means I'm improving. My cardiovascular system is improving. And if it's going down, then you say, oh, I'm getting worse. Now, what you can't do is say, okay, why do I have two of them? Well, because I bought this one a long time ago. And then Joe said, hey, why don't we all get a Whoop band so we can compare each other? So this is my community one, and this is my personal one. That's why. So you can't compare them. And I'll just tell you what it is. This one says my heart rate variability is in the 50s. And this one started out like 19. And I'm like, what the heck? But it's gone up to right about 30 when I started running and doing more physical activity. So I've gone up to the 30s from, what was it? How long have we had these? Like 3 years?
I just
Joe?
hit my 667th day in a row, so I think I've
That's,
had mine for just under 2 years. So
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
so 2 years.
Year and a half, maybe.
So yeah, so in those 2 years, my heart rate variability has gone up. So you don't compare between devices. The devices measure differently, and they're not comparable. But the same, if you're wearing the same device, it's internally consistent. So if it tells you you're 19, then it doesn't mean you're 19. If you had a really good monitor, like a high quality monitor, then you like EKG kind of thing, then it would tell you exactly what. So the devices aren't exact, but they're consistent. So if you see a trend going up, that's a good sign. That's the best way you can say it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is good. Let us know. What do you guys use? Are you tracking your HRV? Is that something that you're doing? Let us know if you are, how. And if you're interested, I think Joe posted some information about, getting your own Whoop band to start kind of dialing into some of that. What are some other things that you guys enjoy tracking, like on your Whoop band, or things that you feel like are really important for your health?
for me, it's like sleep is a huge one.
Yeah.
I notice like sleep makes such an impact for everything. So if you can sleep more, like going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time, like that is huge. And then avoiding late night food and drink is huge as well, because I'll see my heart rate is higher. So when you're going to sleep and your heart rate is like when your blood is pumping to digest food in your stomach, then it's not entering into that anabolic. Is it anabolic or catabolic? I always get those confused.
Yeah, the anabolic is the sleep mode. That's the repair mode.
Yeah, so then you don't get into that repair mode as much, so then you're just not recovering as well as you could be. So, which is credit back to the old 610 reset that you've been teaching that for many years, Dr. Saunders, and yeah, how important that is and why that works. Like it makes sense. Like all of your blood and your heart is pumping blood to the rest of your body to repair itself. So, but yeah, I track all of that stuff, and the Whoop is cool because like today I had a good score. This is the if you can see,
Wow.
I had 88% recovery. My HRV was 52, but I was golfing the last 2 days, so I was in my like uh ideal state with my boys, just having a great time. And but like yeah, I can track like heart rate variability. I think mine has gone up. So like 6 months ago it was 34, and now you can see it's gone up to like 41. So Scott, Dr. Saunders at 50% today. So
No, I
yeah,
got 88% sleep. Look at my sleep.
that's great sleep. Yeah.
I think for some reason I noticed too in our group stuff, it was like, I don't know why, but Cheryl, didn't it seem like the women always had a little bit higher recovery than, or no, better sleep typically than most of the
Yeah.
men?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know why. Like my sleep was 92%. I didn't really think I slept that great, but mine usually runs pretty high.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
Notice that. You two sleep great. Like, wow, I wish I could sleep like that. So,
I don't have problems sleeping. So I guess I can say that. Like once I sleep, I sleep. And it doesn't take me long to fall asleep either. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Interesting. It's kind of fun just to monitor it and just see, and it's fun to be a part of a community as well, where,
Yeah.
like you can join a local or community that's already going like in your state. And it could be just like mine. I'm in South Dakota, so it's women in South Dakota who maybe are in my age range, just so you can see how other people are doing. And you don't want to compare yourself to other people because everyone's so different, but it is good to get an idea just what other people are doing. Or sometimes when I see how much working out other people are doing, I'm like, oh, I better get up and get moving. It is good for that too. So,
Well, and I
all
think
right.
too, like just the concept of measuring and being able to see your
Yeah.
numbers, back and forth and tracking progress. And like when I see something, I know like either I celebrate the win or the progress, or I'm like, okay, I gotta like do something here
Yeah.
because my numbers are off or whatever. So because if you only base it on how you're feeling, like your feelings can be the heart is deceptive above all things. Says the Bible, but no, that's probably a whole different topic. But like just like you can feel pretty good and like have a heart attack. So like that's not necessarily um great to not have actual numbers to go by. So, and I think, yeah, there's more and more research about heart rate variability being a very good measurement of holistically how you're doing. And like that, it's not so much the number itself, it's your number and whether you're improving that or if it's getting worse. So,
Yeah. I like that too because I know Dr. Saunders, even with, our friends that maybe have type 2 diabetes or they're experiencing some insulin resistance or whatever, you often will mention, let's test and get the truth. Let's check some numbers and see what that really is telling us. And I think this isn't, we're not doing blood testing here, but even just using some forms of measurement to see how it changes over the course of time, I think is really important to get a better gauge for your
I,
health.
I think that's good too. In the old days, if you go back 100 or 1,000 years or whatever, human beings they didn't have to measure everything. You know what? Everything that was done had to be done with muscle power. So you
Mm.
didn't have to like force yourself to exercise. It was like we have to think about all of these things that they never had to think about. They didn't have to think about exercise. That needs to be carried over there. It needs to be done. If I need to go to the store, I have to walk to the store into town or wherever, that wasn't get in the car and drive. It wasn't sit on the couch and watch TV. If I wanted entertainment, I had to go out and find it and exercise. And then food, processed food, that wasn't an option. All you had was organic. All you had was natural. and assuming you could get it. And then, yeah, assuming you could get it, you didn't have to worry about overeating because not everybody, unless you were a king or a noble or someone who was rather wealthy, you weren't going to have like too much food to eat where you could sit around and eat all day. So the life today requires us to consciously think about the things that people never had to think about before: what we eat, when we sleep, how much we exercise. And so I can measure those now. And that's actually, I think it's a great thing.
I noticed that sugar and alcohol affect heart rate and heart rate variability. The more sugar I have, my heart's struggling with the stress that it added to my body. And then, of course, sleeping tanks when I've had either more than usual or any alcohol as well. So those are two things that also affect how you feel. Even if we're not diabetic, you can see your body's fluctuating with the stresses of actually toxins entering your body that we eat.
Yeah, and now we have something called a continuous glucose monitor. We can measure how much sugar we have in our bodies, and which I recommend frequently to patients who, if there's any concern about blood sugar, they're great.
Mhm. Okay. Let me see here. What is another question we had here? Tom said, does it really matter what order you eat your food? I keep seeing people say fiber first, protein second, then carbs last. Why does it matter if it's all going to the same place at almost the same time?
um, there's some evidence for that, and just sort of to give an overview of it, mostly it probably doesn't matter much, but there is some uh, theories going out about what's better. So if you eat your fiber, then you fill your stomach, and then you're not like famished and hungry and have to eat right away. So then you could eat slower. And then you want protein because the first part of your meal, you want a high amount of acid and enzymes to be produced. And so a higher level of acid and enzymes allows protein to be broken down into peptides and amino acids so they can go down and be digested properly. If you eat sugar first, then that suppresses the acid and enzyme production for digesting proteins. So that's why you wouldn't eat your dessert first, or you wouldn't eat your carbs first. Um, uh, as to how well that works, for some people, it'll probably make a difference, and for other people, it probably won't make a difference. So there may be something to that, at least for some people, but I don't. I've read the thing or ideas about it, but I haven't seen any specific research to say you should eat this first, this second, this third. It's all been sort of theoretical hypothesis.
Okay. Um, Judy had said, how does body fat affect heart rate?
Oh, um, if let's say you have one of those small thick hearts and it's beating pretty fast, and you add 1 pound of fat, well, 1 pound of fat is a mile of blood vessels. So you've added that extra blood and blood flow, so you have to beat 1 or 2 more times a minute, so it could increase your resting heart rate quite a bit. But again, there's a lot more factors that are involved in that, and that is your blood pressure, the amount of circulation that you have, like whether you've just eaten and you're eating and you're thinking and you're exercising all at the same time. So all your blood vessels are dilating, and now you got to get a whole bunch of flow through there. So your heart rate's going to go up. But generally, yes, the added fat will increase your heart rate.
And how does blood glucose spikes from carbs affect heart rate and pressure?
Okay, so glucose spikes by themselves aren't going to change the pressure and the heart. except for one thing. And some people are sensitive to this and other people aren't. And that is the glucose spike causes the insulin to go up. And the insulin prevents the heart from using fat for energy. The heart needs 60% of its energy to come from fat. So there's less energy in the heart when you have glucose spikes. So if we're talking spikes, I'm thinking like type 2 diabetes spikes. I'm not thinking like normal spikes after eating of 120. But that would be something that raises the insulin pretty high, and then that prevents energy to the heart. So that could affect both the blood pressure and the heart rate.
Maja said, is heart rate while exercising cardio in the 160 to 180 dangerous?
No, no. So heart rate by itself is not dangerous. I've heard people say that, oh, it should never be 200. That's dangerous. The word dangerous has to have a qualifier. Dangerous to what? For what? What is the danger there? And that is, if your resting heart rate is 200, then the question is, why is that happening? If you don't know why, if it's supraventricular tachycardia or atrial fibrillation, then there could be some danger involved in that. You're going to make clots, for example, in your heart that can go up into your brain and cause a stroke. So the danger, it's not dangerous to the heart to beat fast. And so when you're exercising and you're going to 160, that's great. That's pushing your heart to the limit, because 160, I don't know your age, but that's probably pretty close to your limit. And what that does is the heart goes, oh, I've reached my limit. I better increase that limit to get to the next level. And so that's how you increase or improve heart function, is by taking it to the limit like that.
Okay. Allison said, I have a friend who is 78 and just had triple bypass and is also a diabetic. Which Barton program should he go on? Or are they both similar that you could do either one?
Okay. Both. They're perfectly compatible. Yeah. So if you've had bypass, then you're going to need some energy to the heart. So the healthy heart kit is going to work well, and the diabetes solution kit is still going to work. You start with phase 1 and do it, because that's probably got a lot to do with why you got heart disease in the first place. So yeah, I think number 1, fixing your heart, or number 1, fixing the diabetes. So I think the diabetes solution kit would be the primary. And then number 2, fixing the problems with the heart, that would be secondary.
Okay. Let's see, we did that one. Okay, I'm gonna go to the top here. Allison said, I have a friend who is post-cancer treatment drugs for 5 years, and a side effect is you gain weight. Would fasting be a good way to lower or keep the weight gain from going crazy? Any suggestions? Thank you.
Okay, so chemotherapy is, I don't know what chemotherapy is, sometimes heavy metals like platinum. Sometimes it's organic toxins, but these are all toxins that kill mitochondria. They stop your energy production and kill mitochondria. And the problem with them is they kill mitochondria in the cancer cells and prevent the cancer cells from reproducing and making energy. But they also affect your own cells to at least some extent. So they call it chemo brain. They have all these names for it. And it's all the same thing as the lack of energy. So number 1, detox. So consider detox for post-chemotherapy. Anybody who's been through chemotherapy, consider detox. And there's several ways to detox. One is to use high levels of vegetables. So you would have something like kale smoothies every morning. And then you add in a lot of omega-3 oils. So kale smoothie with a half a cup of flax seeds in it. And then it should have cilantro in it. Cilantro is a great detox for heavy metal. It actually takes heavy metal out of the body. And chlorella. Chlorella is another thing you can add to that. And you can get it in teaspoons, or you can get it in capsules, or there's liquid too. Chlorella is a blue-green algae. And it's really good for at least the heavy metal part of the detox. That's a good thing. So like a kale smoothie with cilantro, chlorella, and flax seeds. So that kind of thing would be a great way to detox that way. And you add that into your regular diet. It could be a meal replacement in the morning, something like that. That's generally what I do, is I just use it for a meal. I've been looking at pesticides and all of the diseases that are being caused by our modern society, by all the chemicals we produce and heavy metals and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh! So I'm doing a ongoing detox because of that. So the other way to detox is fasting. Fasting is something that causes something that you don't get any other way, and that is the mitochondria will reproduce. There's actually, it's amazing. They do several things. So mitochondria are like little tiny bacteria in a cell. So you think of a cell as if it were this big, then the mitochondria would be like this big. It's this little teeny bacteria in this cell. And they are in charge of, well, a lot of things, the metabolism of the cell. And they make the energy for the cell to function. Without mitochondria, the cell just dies. So you need them. And your heart needs, 40% of the heart is packed with mitochondria. The rest is the muscle part that actually moves. So, most of that, well, not most, but half of it almost is mitochondria. So how do you get them to reproduce and make more energy for your body? Fasting is something that they do. So the ones that aren't working, they will merge together into one, and they'll function better. The ones that are the zombie cells that are non-functional, they'll remove them from function, and then the other ones will reproduce. So you actually get more mitochondria if you provide enough energy, and then fasting is an important part of that. Okay, so then the third thing is exercise. And a lot of people will talk about like going in a sauna and sweating in the sauna, because sweating is so good for you. It's true. Sweating does detox, but the best way to sweat is from the inside, from exercise. It's perfectly fine to do a sauna. I'm not saying anything bad about them. In fact, the research shows that people that do saunas have an improved lifespan and an improved health span. They actually live longer, healthier lives doing regular saunas. And I'm talking regular, like 3 to 5 times a week. So that's like not once a week and not once a month. This is like regular. And that's the same with exercise. So yes, you can get all the benefits of sauna plus all the benefits of exercise by exercising. So exercising to sweat, and sweating enough you've sweat out some toxins. And so those three, the green smoothie with cilantro and flax seeds and chlorella, kale, and then fasting periodically, and then exercise. That was a long answer to chemotherapy, but I've been going
Okay.
through this for a while with several patients, and it's working.
Awesome. There were some other questions here too. Let's see.
Quick question, is wet sauna or dry sauna best for detox? Donna asks.
It's sweating. Some people like the far infrared saunas because it penetrates deeper into the tissue and causes sweating more from the inside. But there's nothing magical about either one of them. It's if you sweat, that's where your detox is.
Okay. And then someone had asked about, well, yeah, Debbie had said, what is the best detox program? I've heard you should detox heavy metals first and then parasites, but how often to detox? Yearly programs or daily?
Well, uh, regularly, whatever that turns out to be. So I fast once a month. That's all. So I don't. I do 3 days, 72 hours once a month, and uh, I know people do more than that, and people do less than that, and some people I've had people do 10 days once a year, just water only for 10 days once a year because he says it's easier to do long-term fasting. Anyway, so that kind of thing, and then your smoothie, like your kale smoothie, detox smoothie is going to be on a regular basis, daily. If you miss days, no big deal. 5 times a week, that kind of thing would be just fine. Nothing wrong with that. And then the exercise, the sweating should be regular too. And with exercise helps you build mitochondria because the exercise tells your body, oh, I need more energy, and starts making more mitochondria. So that should be done on a regular basis. So that's different things, different people.
Okay. Yeah, Lily had said, what's your opinion of the many podcasts declaring the cause of diabetes is a parasite living in the pancreas, which feeds on insulin? The parasite can be eradicated by the use of a powerful algae tincture from Iceland, thereby curing diabetes in thousands of people.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I think reality here, you have to look at things really carefully because, man, it is so hard to distinguish between what's real and what's not these days. There is so much junk out there that's going on. So look at why. Why is this happening? So did all of a sudden some parasite show up that never existed before? Why we're having this exponential rise in diabetes? Um, no, it's so clear and so easy. As human beings become more sedentary and more obese, they get more diabetes. I mean, it's that is it, and it's very clear and very obvious. So all of the people, and I've read all these things about, yes, the parasites in the pancreas. There was one study from, what was it? Texas that had cadmium getting into your pancreas and causing it. There was all kinds of things, inflammatory things, vaccines, all kinds of things. But let's look at the simple big picture reality, and that is when you decrease your carbohydrate, when you decrease your fat, you decrease the calories, and that gets rid of diabetes. So yes, thousands of people can be cured by diabetes by doing the diabetes solution kit.
And you can find that at bartonwebinar.com. Use code webinar25 to save 25%. Okay, another question. Anonymous says, my nutritionist is saying that my TH1 and my TH2 are out of balance and not working like they should. She has me eating cooling foods and taking supplements to help get things balanced. Unfortunately, the turmeric threw a wrench in things, and now I'm working on getting my system settled from the allergic reaction. For instance, I just made a drink from half a cucumber, lemon juice, and water and ginger. Although I'm taking a break from ginger right now, I don't really like it.
Huh. Okay. Well, um, Yeah, if you're having a reaction, then it's something that you have to avoid. If allergic reactions are not something to push through, that's not a push through thing. But you know, if you're exercising and you can only walk, you know, 1 block, you can push through and go 1.5 blocks or something, and that's actually a good thing. But when you have allergic reactions or something, then yeah, don't push through those. Find something else. There are other things. There's boswellia is actually really good replacement for that. Ginger is a Th2 increases it. Yeah, if you don't like it, you don't like it. You take capsules. There's a ginger licorice tea that actually is really good. You use natural ginger, natural licorice, and that takes the hot part of the ginger out. I don't know, makes it better. So I don't know.
Okay. Ricardo said last week in the last question, Dr. Saunders spoke about non-dairy milk and informed us that almond milk has the disadvantage of omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. My question today is whether almond butter is also affected by the same thing. I eat toast with almond butter for breakfast and was wondering.
Yes, almonds are wonderful. They have a lot of vitamin E. They have fiber. They have all kinds of nutrition. They're really good for you. But as a staple food, they're not very good because they have a really high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. So they have a lot of omega-6. And so whether you're eating raw almonds or cooked almonds um, or almond butter or almond milk. It doesn't matter. The ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is still too high.
Okay. Let's see. Anonymous said, I still have a touch high on my blood sugar numbers. If I wanted to try a supplement, would I try Cinechroma, berberine, or citrus bergamot? What's the difference between the three products?
Okay. I should think that kind of as a basis, Cinechroma has all of the nutrients that most people with high blood sugar are deficient in or could be deficient in. Vitamin D is a common deficiency. Why? Because we work indoors all day. Look at this artificial light, has no vitamin D for me. And then when I come in the morning, it's kind of overcast usually. And then when I leave at night, the sun's going down. I'm not making any vitamin D every day, right? So it's a very, very common deficiency, and that's found in the Cinechroma. And then vitamin K has to come with it, and vitamin K is found in fermented foods, which is great if you're eating fermented foods, but most people don't eat natto and miso and um, uh, okay,
Sauerkraut.
sauerkraut. I was thinking of cabbage. I couldn't get sauerkraut. Yeah, or kimchi or something like that. Though they actually, the bacteria make vitamin K. So you need those bacteria producing fermented foods to get your vitamin K2. You can get vitamin K1 from eating kale, but they are different. And so the Cinechroma contains K2. Chromium is a common deficiency. Selenium, vanadium, these are common deficiencies. So the purpose for Cinechroma is really to give you all of the nutrients that you can't really get from food. You can't get, if you're drinking cod liver oil, you can get vitamin D. Otherwise, you're not going to get vitamin D, right? So, and selenium in the United States, the plants don't need selenium, so nobody puts it in the soil. And our soils are deficient, so we don't have it in our foods. So these are common deficiencies, and they affect blood sugar. So that's why we put this together. And I think it's the best. I've looked at all these supplements, and I think that's the best. So that would be a start. And so we've had some people who were probably deficient in one or more of those nutrients who said, oh yeah, I started taking Cinechroma, my blood sugar normalized, and it's never been bad since. And we're like, Wow, good.
Mm-hmm.
People who are deficient, it fixes the problem. So that's great. And then after that, consider using berberine. Berberine is an alkaloid that is good for doing essentially what metformin does. It's kind of a replacement for metformin because it does what metformin does without the side effects. See, metformin, if you exercise, it will block you from building muscle. You don't build muscle if you're taking that because it blocks the energy of the muscle. Whereas berberine increases the cyclic AMP without blocking the energy supply of the muscle. So it still increases your ability to use fat. So berberine has a lot of benefits over metformin. So I would prefer that as a next step. Berberine needs to be, if you have high blood sugar, berberine needs to be taken on a more regular basis. So it's not something you can take occasionally, or even once a day isn't enough, 2 to 3 times a day. So you may find that you take it once a day and you go, it doesn't do anything. And then try 2 times a day and it doesn't do anything. Try 3 times a day. Wow, my blood sugar came down. So it's needed more frequently for dosing. The other one, the citrus pectin, bergamot, is also okay for lowering blood sugar. Works entirely differently, and so they can be used together. And all 3 of these can be used together. They don't have to be separated differently. Anyway, so yeah.
There was another question that I'd come into wondering if some of those supplements, let me just see here. Yeah, Diana said, Cinnachroma, Nervala, and berberine, those were ones that she had just started. Could there be anything in those that would cause bowel movements or loose stool?
Well, actually, theoretically, anything can cause loose stool.
Mhm.
But there isn't anything specific in any of those that should cause loose stool.
I did notice with berberine, I would just recommend start small. It may not affect you that way, but I think that one when I first started, it just seemed like maybe, which for some people is a great thing, but maybe just start small with berberine. Or slow, maybe not small, a lower dose. Okay. Any thoughts about the mobile device called Cardia Mobile?
Cardio mobile. I'm not familiar with that one.
Not either.
No, I have. Yeah, no, I have one called Cardia with a K.
Yeah, that's what
Uh,
this one is Cardia with
oh,
a K.
Oh, okay. Oh, if that's the one, okay. It's a 6 lead EKG, and it's great. I use it all the time. I've gotten rid of my old EKG machine, and that's the one I use now. Because it gives me a rhythm strip. It tells me if it's sinus rhythm. I could see the electrophysiology of the heart. Well, in a very basic form. I mean, it's not specific, but if somebody has some weird arrhythmia or something, then I'm going to send them to a cardiologist anyway. So this gives me an outline. And I think I've had patients that have had heart problems and they learn how to use this and they send me their measurement. And I go, no, your sinus rhythm, you're good. And or no, you better take care of that. Better go to the ER. And it's been very helpful. I like it.
Okay, good. Okay, Jacob said glucose spikes up into 160 range, dropping immediately into 130s is not a good thing, right?
No, not necessarily. From 160 to 130, you shouldn't notice a difference. There are people whose uh, normal has shifted up, and so they're in the 150 range. And if they drop below that range, they will feel like they have hypoglycemia, even though it's not technically hypoglycemia as far as the number goes. So the normal range between 70 and 90, if you're at 100, your set point is 150, and you drop to a normal 75, then you'll be going, oh my gosh, I got hypoglycemia. And it's not hypoglycemia, but yes. So then the answer is yes, you will feel like you have hypoglycemia even though it's not. Now, here's the important point, and that is it's good for you. Okay, studies have been done on this. It's good for you. So in going through that hypoglycemia, your body starts making more glucose transport proteins because of the need. That's the way biological systems work. They work based on need. So you want to build mitochondria, you want to build energy, exercise, push your limit. Going past your limit tells your body, oh, I have a greater need. I better make more mitochondria so I can do that. The same thing happens with the glucose. So that you change your set point by allowing it to drop lower. So the answer to your question is, if it drops from 160 to 130 really fast, that should be fine. And then, in fact, going down below 100, that should be fine too.
All right. Okay. That's it for today. Thank you so much, Dr.
Yeah.
Saunders, Cheryl, Joe. Glad you guys are here. Let's come back next week at the same time. Tell a friend and bring your questions.
Bye all.